Welcome, you're watching Head to Head. I'm Antonina Antosha with UATV. NATO is set to guarantee the safe passage of ships via the Kerch Strait and to step up aerial surveillance in the area. Just recently, the two frigates of the North Atlantic Treaty Organizations have arrived in Odesa after patrolling the Black Sea. The boats will take part in the exercises alongside the Ukrainian Navy to enhance combat readiness with NATO naval forces. To discuss this, we're joined by retired Major General Volodymyr Havrylov, former Defence Attache of Ukraine in the US, Great Britain and Romania. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting.
So today at Washington, a two-day summit of foreign ministers of the NATO countries has already begun, if I'm not mistaken. And during the meeting, the top officials are going to be discussing additional measures in response on Russia's aggression. One of the ways to tackle Russia's aggression decided by NATO was to enhance its presence in the Black Sea and to send more ships to the Black Sea. What else could be expected after the summit ends?
We expect a very expanded decision of NATO summit in Washington. First of all, it's related to 17th anniversary of the alliance, and they're going to agree on so-called Black Sea package. It means a number of measures to enhance the NATO presence in this area and to tackle, as you mentioned, the Russian threat in this region. The most important for Ukraine, first of all, NATO will agree on extra resources to assist us with training, maritime exercises with our forces, with equipment, with surveillance system, and of course with the enhanced presence of NATO ships in Black Sea. Now we have approximately 2 ships on the permanent permanent rotation in Black Sea, NATO ships. It means after several weeks, 2 ships will leave the area and 2 others will come in to present NATO on the right way.
What about other 2 ships that just arrived in Odesa?
It's about those 2 ships.
And there are another 4 in the
average
Mediterranean.
number of NATO ships in Black Sea to keep permanent presence of NATO is around 2 ships. If they are going to increase the number, it means maybe 3, 4, depends on the resources. But nevertheless, the 2 ships in this area is very important because we have not only a navy from NATO countries like Canada or Spain right now, for example, but also there are Turkish Navy as a NATO country on the permanent basis, Romania Navy, small but more or less modern, Bulgarian Navy, all of them are NATO countries on the permanent, but 2 ships we see in Odesa today, it's from countries which are not in the area. They send them to support us.
Well, that clearly means that there is a necessity to strengthen NATO presence in the Black Sea to withstand from Russia's aggression. And this is what U.S. Permanent Representative of NATO Ambassador Key Haley Hutchinson said. Let's take a listen. We have a soundbite.
It's unacceptable that they would be holding those Ukrainian sailors in prison in Moscow right now. And so we are going to make sure that we have the capability to deter a very aggressive Russia. It is very important that Romania, Bulgaria, and Ukraine, as well as Georgia, have the security in that Black Sea area, both for ships, but also for their land-based safety.
Now, coming back to the fact that 2 NATO ships have already arrived in Odesa, and it happened on April 1st during the countdown of the presidential election votes. Now, this is a very controversial time in the history of any country, and usually this time period is viewed by especially aggressor countries as the most suitable ones to carry out attacks. So did NATO have any special message sending those 2 ships over this special time period to the Black Sea Peninsula?
There might be, of course, some kind of coincidence, but nevertheless, of course, it's a very strong signal to Moscow that there are ships from NATO countries in the area. They're here for exercises and monitoring the situation, and they're ready to be any time to be supported by other ships in case of necessity. Of course, it's important in the period of our presidential elections, no doubts. But nevertheless, they have a very clear calendar or rotation scheme for the ships, so it coincides a little bit, let it be so.
Okay. Is there any difference in the program of the military drills and exercises that are scheduled, taking into account the fact that there is a hybrid war going on in eastern Ukraine and there is a possibility of Ukraine being attacked by Russia?
Of course, any exercises of NATO countries on our territories, they are in some or other way related to our internal situation and external situation in the east of Ukraine. And of course, any political campaign here inside Ukraine could be supported by any kind of exercises, land or marine or air force exercises. It's important. Russia, they have to understand that Ukraine is not alone in this world now, that we have a permanent presence of some NATO either troops or assistance or forces on our territory or next to our territories, like in Poland, in Romania, and other countries. And it's a very clear message, and in Moscow they really understand it. They are very nervous about that. So every time we see NATO ships coming to Black Sea, we see Russian Navy close to them, trying to escort them, trying to also send some kind of signals. But nevertheless, the decision of NATO summit in Washington with a Black Sea package will be very strong signal to Moscow that there is a limit for the action in Crimea and Kerch Strait.
NATO countries are not the only countries that are supporting Ukraine in this, let's say, battle, if I may say so. There's also Canada, right? Canada is one of the most active supporters of Ukraine in this hybrid war, and Canadian government regularly disperses certain sums of money into helping Ukrainian army, and it regularly sends soldiers and troops for them to hold mutual trainings with Ukrainian soldiers. How does that benefit our army forces, Ukrainian army forces? What can we take from the experience of Canadian troops?
Canadian troops may be not the most experienced comparing with, for example, US forces. Of course, they're also participants of a number of coalition operations in Afghanistan, for example, or Iraq. But they're professional force. They have experience in training and the right implementation on some kind of procedures. And most important, they have a very good motivation inside the country to support Ukraine because of our diaspora there. It's very huge.
It's one of the biggest in the world.
Yes, and many military and Canadian military, they're Ukrainian origin. For example, chief of land force, he's from Ukrainian family, from kind of Zaychuk family. There are also a number of deputies in the parliament, they of Ukrainian descent, so their sense, the feeling of Ukrainian problems is very sharp in Canada. So I am not surprised to see them on the front line of training and assisting us not only with that Navy ship trip tour to Black Sea, but also with instructors in Yavoriv, in our training centers, and other things.
There is a statement or a claim by the commander of Ukraine's joint forces, Serhiy Nayev, who said that the joint forces are ready for all forms and methods of warfare. Would you agree or disagree with this statement?
NATO is an organization where everybody on a military level is ready to anything in case of something. And they had a very clear evolution of mindset during the last 4 years, from the beginning of our war with Russia until now. First 2 years, they really didn't understand what was going on, and they didn't understand what might be the role of the military in that. Now they're not confused of the situation. They're working on how to tackle it. They are working on worst scenario when Russia decided to fulfill full aggression against not only Ukraine, but also
large-scale attack, you mean?
Yes, and also against other countries like Baltic states or somewhere in the area. And all plans of NATO military, they're coordinated in some way with our plans how to stop it, how to prepare to it, and how to train people, and how to react in case of something. So that is a very clear message to Moscow. And time is on our side. And I have no doubts they will be much more stronger in next 2-3 years with the NATO support.
In your opinion, now that what you just said, that NATO is on our side and is effectively working on the, let's say, roadmap on how to tackle Russia's aggression, do you think that the process of ending this hybrid war is going to be faster, how high are the chances that Ukraine will eventually get Crimea back?
First of all, our challenge is not now on the military side of this hybrid war. It's about our internal things, our reforms, our change in fixing our problems, and battling corruption and other things.
Okay.
And Russia will use that kind of weaknesses of Ukraine in this hybrid warfare. Of course, it depends on how quick and strong we are in our internal reforms, and that will move us closer to the end or the finish of the crisis, including the return of Crimea. Strong Ukraine, in a very good cooperation and maybe association with NATO, maybe future NATO member, is inevitably be a winner of the situation. And we will inevitably influence the situation in Russia. And sooner or later, they will have to decide what to do, and they have no choice. They have to return Crimea sooner or later. It's only a matter of time.
Thank you so much for coming and giving us this optimistic point of view. Let's all hope that this is going to turn into reality very, very soon. Thanks again.
Thank you for me.
That was retired Major General Volodymyr Havrylov, former Defence Attache of Ukraine in the US, Great Britain and Romania. Thank you so much for watching Head to Head. I am Antonina Antosha. Stay tuned with UATV for more.